Hey guys, and welcome back to one of my videos. It's Cam, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys fantasy recs for romance readers. So this is going to be more of like a sit down video, I guess. Last time you saw me, I was actually at my parents' house, but now I'm back at my apartment at my college. So, unfortunately for this video, I do not have all the books that I want to share with me because they're scattered in 3 different places. I have some at my parents', I have some here, I have some at my boyfriend's house. They're just everywhere. So I'm gonna try to put the title up on the screen if I can figure out how to like make the editing work. I'm so bad, but like guys, I'm doing my best, and I genuinely think this video is like, there's gonna be so many good recs, I feel like, because I started out as a solely romance reader, but I love fantasy movies. So I was like, I want to read fantasy books. Why can't I read fantasy books? But I always thought they were too complicated for me. Well, that was until I went on my fantasy journey. So I'm going to share that information with you guys. So off topic. I don't know if I mentioned this, but my hair is wet because I just got out of the shower. So glad we addressed that. Let me backtrack. Okay, so for a second, I'm gonna share with you my journey into fantasy. So I did research and I was like, what can I read as a beginning fantasy reader, right? So like, I did all this research to try to get into fantasy, and the #1 suggestion was The Cruel Prince. Okay. The Cruel Prince, or the Folk of the Air trilogy, is very popular, a very popular YA fantasy. And it is sold as a enemies to lovers romance. So I picked up the first book in the Cruel Prince trilogy. And when I tell you I was bored, like, I ended up DNFing the book, I think 75% of the way through, but I have it as I read it because I looked up the rest of the plot, basically. But I still can't tell you a single thing that happened in that book other than the main guy was extremely mean to the mean girl. Like it was so far enemies that like I didn't enjoy it, and there wasn't that much. Romance was like a subplot. Like, there was not that much romance. And I have heard that the second and third books get way better in the Folk of the Air trilogy. Everyone says the first book isn't like their favorite, which is fine. But I think I would have enjoyed it more if it wasn't my first fantasy book. So I think a lot of people tell romance readers or people that are getting into fantasy that they would like The Cruel Prince, but I honestly disagree. I think it's a book that you would read later on in your fantasy journey, because I do want to pick it back up because I think I might like it more in the future. But like the way that the author of The Cruel Prince wrote it, I don't think I really enjoyed her writing style either. So like, I'm not sure if I would even like it now, but I do not recommend The Cruel Prince as a starter fantasy. I think a lot of people recommend it. I would not. The first book I actually picked up for, like, the first fantasy book I ever tried to read was actually The Atlas 6. And this book I DNF'd like 100 pages in because it made me feel stupid. The Atlas 6 and The Cruel Prince both made me feel so dumb, especially The Atlas 6. This is not a book that you should read as a first-time fantasy reader. A lot of people rave about it and recommend it. Not that I saw anyone recommend it for first-time fantasy readers. I just didn't do enough research before picking that book up. But yeah, I don't recommend either of those if you're a romance reader trying to get into fantasy, because those 2 books made me think that I could not get into fantasy, like, at all. I was like, yeah, for months I was like, I'm not a fantasy reader. I can't do it because The Cruel Prince is YA. I was like, if I can't read YA, how am I gonna read any other fantasy, you know? I looked up all these videos, nothing was really like giving me any information that I wanted, but I watch a lot of book content, and the 3 main people that I enjoy watching on BookTube are Destiny Sidwell, Sarah Caroli, and Haley Pham. And Haley Pham started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I knew going in, I was like, she recommended the book, and I knew going in that it was a fantasy. I knew that it was a fantasy romance. I really didn't know what to expect. Before like buying it, I decided to read it on my phone. So I picked up ACOTAR and I read it within 2 days. The whole ACOTAR universe is incredible. If you are a romance reader trying to get into fantasy, I think a lot of fantasy readers wouldn't recommend it because I think it's because the romance aspect in it is very heavy, and so a lot of people don't like it, but a lot of people do, and for a good reason. So if you are a romance reader wanting to get into fantasy, ACOTAR is perfect. All of them. I read all of them. I read the first 3 within 2 weeks, maybe, and then I took a break, read some other stuff, and went back to the novella and the A Court of Silver Flames. Loved every single one. One of my favorite series. It is, to me, so as a romance reader, my favorite romance series of all time is the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. That series is amazing. To me, ACOTAR is the equivalent to the Addicted series, but on the fantasy side, because it has found family. It has 3 sisters. It has a lot of, honestly, kind of the same tropes or aspects of the Addicted series, but it just has that fantasy element, and it is just, it's so good. I mean, and this is me saying this as a romance reader. I really think you would enjoy this series. So that is the first fantasy series that I read. Second fantasy series that I read was Shatter Me. Now, I think this is more considered sci-fi dystopian, but it has that like fantasy element in it. So I have the like last couple of books with me because the rest are at my parents' house. You can see that in my bookshelf tour that I posted like a month ago. But yeah, so I'm still reading the series. I got a bit sidetracked reading some other things, but it's just, there's like 6 books and like a couple of novellas. You don't have to read the novellas, but I did, and you just like blow through them. Like, it's so fun. I mean, it is very YA, very, very YA. So I don't know, you kind of have to like look past that, but they're just so fast paced that you finish like 3 in like 2 weeks and you feel so accomplished, or like 4 in 2 weeks and you feel so good. I don't know, it's just super fast paced, super fun, and I highly recommend. I mean, I feel like you could read Shatter Me or ACOTAR. I feel like they're like interchangeable, but like definitely 2 series that I recommend for you like getting into like kind of the fantasy world, especially ACOTAR, and that one is adult fantasy. So it has a little bit of spice in it. I feel like people say it's really spicy, but I personally didn't think it was like over the top, if you know what I mean. There was like just enough to make it really good. But anyway, so those are the first 2 that I recommend. Oh my goodness. So this is where it really starts to get good, because those 2 series made me realize that I do enjoy fantasy. Like, it has to be a certain type, like the romance has to be very heavy, but I do really enjoy it. And for whatever reason, I don't know if y'all ever have this like feeling when like a book just like calls to you. I don't know, something about it, like you see someone recommend it or something and the cover, it just like, you don't really know what it's about, but like something about it just draws you in. Like maybe it's just me, but I saw Haley Pham read these books and I was completely drawn to them. And that is Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After. These two books are some of my favorite books ever. Like, they were so good. I read a book a day. We had a snow week, basically a whole week of snow, or bad weather, I should say, a couple weeks ago. And I read these both in that week, and I haven't been able to pick up another book since because I've been in a book slump, because these two books were so good that I literally don't want to read anything else. And let me like just keep this in mind. I haven't read that many fantasy books at all. Like if you look at my like shelf down there, most of those except Kingdom of the Wicked, which I really want to read, are romance books. Like ACOTAR and Shatter Me are the only fantasy books that I read, and I devoured these. They are YA fantasy, but they were so good. If you are a romance reader, I don't know if I recommend these to start off fantasy, but after you read ACOTAR or Shatter Me, like once you get a little bit of taste of that fantasy, I highly recommend going into these, because these were incredible. Oh my gosh. And then I also think I saw Carrie Can Read say these were some of her favorite books, and I know if she says something is one of her favorite books that I need to read it, because not that she like judges books harshly, but she definitely like gives her opinion very honest, and like I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. So when she said that these were some of her favorites, immediately I knew I had to read it. I really didn't even know what it was about, but I got through, I think, 50 pages of the first one. Like get through the first 6 chapters, and I was hooked. I downloaded a sample on Kindle Unlimited because they're not on Kindle Unlimited, and I just knew after that sample I had to have these, and I devoured them, and they were so good. And the third one is coming out this September. I cannot wait for it. Like that book could easily ruin this series for me, easily, if she doesn't do it right. I'm so nervous. Stephanie Garber, please give the people what they want. Please. These were incredible. Highly recommend these. I mean, I feel like you could definitely go into them as a first-time romance reader if you've read a lot of books, because you know, over time your tastes like change and everything. It's just like the writing is so whimsical and pretty. I'm not sure if I would have eaten it up as much if it was my first fantasy book. I don't know. I love these. So then that brought me into reading Caraval, which is basically a trilogy. The Caraval trilogy is something that comes before this, and a main character in that is a main character in this. So yeah, I read these first because I couldn't be bothered reading Caraval, and somebody said that these two books were kind of like Six of Crows to like the Shadow and Bone. Like you don't have to read Shadow and Bone to read Six of Crows, but like it helps with the world building. So people said it was kind of like the same kind of thing with the Caraval. Like you didn't have to read Caraval before reading this, and I can honestly say you don't. Actually, I recommend reading Once Upon a Broken Heart first, because I'm reading Caraval right now, and a lot of people say the first book isn't their favorite, and I can definitely see why it's not their favorite. Just because there's a lot of descriptions, and it's cool to like see the world, but I don't know. It's just definitely, I don't think I'd be able to get through it if I hadn't have read Once Upon a Broken Heart. Like, I'm more motivated to read Carval since I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, because I want to know more about Jax. He's one of the main characters in Once Upon a Broken Heart. I know he doesn't come until the second book, so I'm trying to get through the first one so I can read the second one, because everyone says Legendary and Finale, those are the second and third in Carval, are better than the first. That is my recommendation. I know people have their own thoughts and everything, and that is perfectly fine. You know, do whatever you think is best for you. These two were amazing, and if you're a romance reader and love a good enemies to lovers, I think you will eat these two books up, because that's the reason I'm literally reading Carval, is because I can't, like, I want to stay in the world. It's insane. These books have just, like, I've been looking up theories. Like, this one ends on the biggest cliffhanger, and like, oh my gosh, I literally don't understand. I have to know what happens, but I have to wait till September to find out. So if you're in the same boat, if you're watching this and you know you're in the same boat, I feel you. I see you. Okay, I'm sorry. I just watched what am I saying? I just watched the new Avatar movie last night. So like, that's the first thing that came to mind. I see you. So if you've read these books and know what I'm talking about, I see you. I see you, friend. We're in this pain together. I love you. Anyways, those are my romance recs. Those are my fantasy recs for all of us romance readers. This was kind of like about my own journey, but like, I honestly don't like books that I have to struggle to read. You know what I mean? In some fantasy books, I feel like you have to, but the ones that I recommend, I feel like are really easy and fun. So I really hope this helped you. There's a lot of great fantasies out there, and I can't wait to like continue my journey, because I feel like we'll go on this journey together, and I'll have more recs to give you, and it'll be really fun. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really, really hope this helped. Please leave me a comment down below and letting me know, or give me recs. Please give me recs, because I need something that made me feel the way this made me feel. So if you do, please let me know, and thank you so much for watching. I love you. A Valentine's Day vlog hopefully is coming. Oh, I say that. Oh my god, I shouldn't have said that, because now I probably won't do it. I'm gonna try to do it though. I want to get this video up, and I want to get you another video up, because I want to post more consistently. It's really hard with school. But I love you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!